how to make a sweater in any size you want. This is like my secret formula in a way. So first of all, here's the backstory. These are all free-handed. I didn't follow a pattern. I don't have an actual like written out pattern for these, and I don't think I will have one. So I just customize it as I go. So first of all, we have 3 different styles here. This is the first style. Everything that they have in common is they're all double crochets. The only difference is how the double crochets are placed, whether it's a front post, whether it's a back post, whether it's crossed. So these, no front post or back post, just crossed, which means you skip a stitch, you put a double crochet, then you go back to the stitch you skipped and you double crochet, and it makes a cross. The next style is my alpine. So again, with these you can play around with different colors and all that, very customizable. But I do have a video on here, 5-part video on how to make one size. So it's the alpine. This one is just a front post alternating with a regular. And my third style is the waffle. These are 1 row of front posts and regular, and a 2nd row of back post and regular, and you switch out rows of 1 row front post. So for background knowledge, for this to make sense, I have here on TikTok a 5-part how to do the alpine, and I do have on YouTube how to do a waffle in one size. Now for this, I'm gonna be explaining kind of how you can make any size you want on your own. So kind of like, I would say like a formula, you know, that I follow. So first of all, we have our ribbing, yoke, body, sleeves. So ribbing is done in rows. For example, here, you need to do the right amount of rows, because after making the ribbing, you place 1 single crochet into each row of the ribbing and then you start your yoke. So to figure out how big to make your ribbing, how many rows, you have to figure out your first row of the yoke. So for example, this one, I'm gonna go with the smallest because this is the least amount of stitches that I've done. I did V6, V12, V6, V12. So 12 stitches for the front and back of the body, and 6 for the sleeves. And if you count that all together, that is 40 stitches. Each V stitch is counted as 1. So I have my little sheet over here. I'll put like a little photo over here on the edge. And that adds up to 40. That means your ribbing, again, you can customize any ribbing you want. I have this kind. I have a folded down one, as long as it's the correct amount of rows. So for this size, you would want 40 rows. Now, once you get your first row, your V6, V12 done, you start, that's your yoke. So you wanna figure out how much increases. The way I do it is the shoulder. So the shoulder is 6 stitches. I do 6 rows of increases, and then goes the body. For the body, I eyeball it until I like it. So I prefer my sweaters to have more of like a square bubble type of form, not as elongated, but everyone has their preference. So if you like your sweater longer, or if you're doing it already for a child and you want it to size it as you're making it, you can add more rows to the bottom to make it longer. So this sweater actually has a total of 13 rows, starting from the yoke here. So that means 6 rows are the yoke, and the rest of the body is 7 rows. I could have made it 1 row less or 1 row more. It's just my preference, you know. Now for the sleeves, I did 12 rows. I like to make my sleeves 1 row less. Now if you are making this for like a 10-year-old, like your arms tend to be like way longer than your hips. So I've never made a sweater for a 10-year-old, but like if you're making it to size, I would assume you'd make the sleeves a little longer. So again, very customizable. You do it as you want. But for like babies, their arms are not that huge, so my universal way to go is always 1 row less than the body. So your neck sizes, you can make as much as you want. So 7 for the sleeves, that means the body, you double it. 7 plus 7, 14. And you want each section, so sleeve with a V. Sleeve, V, body, V, sleeve, V, body, V. And you add up all your stitches, and how much that is how many rows of ribbing in the beginning of the collar you do. So the next size would be V7, V14, V7, V14, which equals to 46. So you would do the collar 46 rows. And the yoke, you would do it for 7 rows, because I go by the sleeve. How many stitches, that's how many rows I increase. And then for the body, like I said, it is very varied. You just go like basically by eyeball, as you can see. So the next size would be 8. So 8 plus 8, 16. The body would be 16, the sleeve would be 8, the yoke would be 8 rows. For example, what I mean about the body, it like varies because waffle compared to alpine. So waffle doesn't cinch it in as much as alpine does. So I add extra rows when doing the alpine style because it like, you know, it makes it like shorter, like the style of the stitch. While this one, it doesn't like cinch, it stretches out more, so you don't need as much rows in the body. So again, it's preference. At the end, it's preference, how much rows you do. So hopefully this kind of makes sense. I've been getting a lot of like comments on like, how do you do this size? How do you do that size? So this is kind of how like you can make any size you want, because there's all these variables as in different types of yarn thickness. For example, this is a very thin yarn, and this has like 64 rows in the ribbing, while this one has only 46 rows in the ribbing, and it's way bigger just because of the kind of yarn I used. So that's why it's like, I don't really like sizing it by months, because I'd rather size it by like measurements, you know. And yes, so watch my YouTube video, check out my alpine 5-part video on here on TikTok to get like background idea like of the construction of the sweater. They're kind of constructed all the same: collar, yoke, then the whole chain thing here, and starting the body, and then again ribbing, sleeves. Yeah, and then you just decide how you want it to look for yourself. Okay, lastly, let me go through my sweaters and how many rows I did of everything, just for a little reference, I guess. So this sweater, this is why I have a notebook to write it down, because I would forget everything. This sweater is the collar is a row of 46 rows. So the first row of the yoke is V7, V14, and 7 rows in the yoke. The body is a total of 17 from the very first row here, total of 17. The sleeves, a total of 16. Now, next one, same exact. These are the same exact. This is the one I made a video on, the 5-part video on here. This one is one size bigger. So this is 52 rows in the collar. And the first row of the yoke is the V8, V16 with 8 rows of the yoke. And the body is a total of 19 rows. And the sleeves is 17. The body is 19 rows. The sleeves is 18. So it's like a little bit bigger. Then I have my waffle. So for this waffle, I did a collar. This is a folded over collar, so it's a thick one. But the amount of rows I did is 64 rows. And the first first row of the yoke is the V10, V20. The yoke is 10 rows and the whole body altogether is 24 rows. So after making this sweater, I noticed that it like felt a little long. So if I was to make this size again, I would do like 1 row less. So again, it's all about experience. You learn as you go. The sleeves are 23 rows. The collar, you can pick whatever collar you want. I've so far tried 3 different kinds. Like I said, as long as it's the right amount of rows, it will work out. Now this waffle, I made it a bit shorter because this one was looking a little longer. So with this in mind, my second time making a waffle, I made sure to like make a little less rows, even though this is a different size. So this one is 58 rows in the collar, with the first yoke row being V9, V18, 9 rows in the yoke, and the body is a total of 21. So if I was following this type of sizing, I would have done a total of 22, but this felt a little long, so I made a little shorter, just because, like I said, I like it more like of a square, like rounded bubble type of looking sweater, not as elongated. My preference. The sleeves are 20 rows. Body altogether 21, sleeves 20 rows. So that's just my sweaters, how I made them, just playing around, making it as I go. No specific tutorial that I looked.